Greetings, programmers. Busted Thumbs back again for our fifth installment in our Frogger competition. And now, where we left off last time, we had our frog finally moving about. So let's take a look at that. I was messing around with his position. Let me go ahead and change that back again. This is just me playing around. Set that to 90 where he should be when he starts. Go ahead and hit play. He now moves up and down, left and right, just the way you might want a frog to move. Now that doesn't look great. We should have some sort of animation on that, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So you might have noticed we did have three different costumes. Is frog sitting still, frog in his mid jump, and frog in his full jump. And what we want to do is go from still to mid to full, back to mid, and to still again when we're all done. And that's actually pretty easy given that we're working in a game loop and we know just where exactly he is along the way inside of that loop. So let's make another block for our frog here, which is to update frog costume. And this will be entirely based on where he is inside of his jump. We'll put that guy over here and we'll make sure that that gets called in our loop. After we did already set it. We set the costume here into frog still when we found out that he's not in a jump, but we can easily make sure that that happens all the time by having that condition inside here. So if his jump direction is equal to none, then we can simply take this guy right here and put him inside there, and then we can just go ahead and stop that particular script because that's all the work we need to do if his jump direction is none. He's still and sitting still, and he should stay still. The more interesting thing is when he's actually in the midst of a jump, and that is always the case if his jump direction is not equal none, so we don't need any other if statement. We're going to just switch based on how many ticks we are in. So if our current number of ticks is, basically we have to go through 4 different states before we get to the final one, which is handled in this particular one. So if we're a fourth of the way there, if we've even started jumping, we want to switch that costume to the mid jump. But if we've gone a fourth of the way, in fact that means that we only need to keep track in thirds, because as soon as we start jumping we're going to change to the mid direction, and then when we're midway through we want him to be full out, and then otherwise we want him to be back into this midway again. So what I'm going to say we're going to do here is an if then else. And in one case we're going to switch his looks to be, switch his costume to be the full jump, and in the other one we want it to be the mid jump. And the condition is going to be if the number of ticks is greater than 1/3 of the way through, but less than 2/3 of the way through. So two things have to be true, so we're going to need an AND operation. So that means if our ticks are greater than in one case and less than in another, so we're going to need tick. If tick is greater than, and it's actually not tick, it's how far we are in, so it's that subtraction thing I use all the time. It's this guy right here. And that was unfortunate. It changed that to a value I didn't want, -1. Let's put that back. So if our tick minus our jump start tick is greater than the ticks to jump divided by 3, and that is ticks to jump divided by 3. But the same thing is less than 2 times ticks to jump divided by 3. So really we want that only in this case we want it times 2. We want to we basically want to multiply it by 2/3. So, and then we need this guy again, so I'm going to duplicate him. Bring that over there. And that starts to look pretty long, but sometimes Scratch just kind of looks pretty long when you're doing math like that. Then we want to switch the costume in full jump. This is if he's more than 1/3 of the way through his jump, but less than 2/3 of the way through his jump. Let's see how that works. Go ahead and make him bigger. Press play. That's pretty good. It's kind of animating as he goes up and down. So we've got that in order now. I like that kind of look. It's kind of cool. You've got our frog jumping, and he looks like he's jumping. Unfortunately, he looks like he's jumping, even if he goes left to right, he still looks like he's jumping up and down. We need him to turn a little bit before doing that. And that's going to be interesting, because when we turn, as I showed you before, the crosshair on this guy is up right here. And that means he's actually going to rotate around that point as well. So I'm going to start using his position to turn him left, right, and down. But when I do that, I'm going to have to update his position on the screen as well. And that's too bad, but I could have instead kept him centered. And maybe that's probably the easiest way for everybody involved. So I think maybe that's what I'll do. I'm going to move this crosshair by clicking on that crosshair bit and actually kind of stick him instead right down towards the middle. And that means I will have to update it, but I'll only have to update it once. And we'll stick that guy right kind of towards the same in the middle. And this guy as well, right there towards the middle. Which means I have to change my math a little bit about the positioning in the Y direction. Before we were setting that start jump Y to this little addition here. We're going to have to, this was at the top of the row plus that little times 3. I'm going to have to get rid of that bit. So we're going to take that and get rid of that plus. And what we're going to do now is the same trick we used up here since we're centering. I'm going to go ahead and get a plus inside of there of 0.5 and center it right in the row. Now let's make sure that didn't do anything too bad. Oh, it did. Where did I go wrong? What I went wrong on is I added the 0.5 to the wrong thing. It should be the current row plus 0.5 times the row height. Let's try again. Stop, play, stop, play. Oh, and I'm in the completely wrong place now. That should be up there. And that was none. There we go. It's back to doing what we expected. And he's going left and right the way we expect as well. And the reason why I'm doing all of this is because we're going to now start switching the direction. And if I had set the direction and I'd left it the same, and I'd turned him, then he would have turned so that half of his body was sticking up into the next row. Or if I turned him around, he would have been completely in the wrong row. We want him to be swiveling right on the center of himself on the frog. So let's update the frog costume. And let's make sure, not the frog costume, but the frog orientation. And we can actually probably do that right when we are pressing the arrow key itself. We've left if we can't make that turn, so let's make the orientation be what we expect it to be. Let's switch, change the position, the direction that he points. If he's up, we want it to be this default. So we'll go ahead and put that inside of there. If it's down, it's going to be the opposite, which is -90. Now those you notice that it says left. It's just wrong in this case. If we'd drawn it in scratch terms, frog would have been pointing to the right when we started. It's not, so we have to keep everything off a little bit. Point in direction. We just have to remember that 90 is up in our case. And so when we're going left, if 90 is up, then we want to go, let's see, 90 is up. Then what, -90, so we want 0, yeah. And then we need one more, 180, like that. Now if I do this again, when I go left, he turns to the left. When I go right, he turns to the right. When I go up, and when I go down, he turns the way we would expect. Isn't that cool? That is really cool. I really like that. He's moving the way we want him to. Now that we've got him moving to the position we want him to, let's see if we can make these bands here correct, these purple bands. You'll notice that this purple band is just slightly, oh, I ran out of time. Let me start again. This purple band is just slightly too big. So we'll move that down, and there should be 4 rows of traffic. So there's 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, 4 rows. So that should still be traffic, and this position right here is where that purple band should be. So I'll stop it right there, and I'll go back to my stage, and I'll go to the backdrops, and I'm going to make sure that this guy expands all the way over to the left, and I'm going to make him just a slight bit smaller, because that's what we learned. He needed to be a slight bit smaller. And I'm going to move this guy up until he covers my frog. And I'm going to make him a slight bit smaller too, like that, and make sure that he goes all the way to the edge. And let's try that again. So we'll make that bigger. We're going to go ahead and hit play. He's at the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of traffic, and boom, he is into his safe spot. And then when he goes up, there should be 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of logs, and then his safe spot should be up 1 more. So actually, we're a little short on space. Did I not count the number of columns correctly? Let me try again. Bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4. Middle, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we're missing 1 row of space, so I don't have the number of columns correct. Let me see, what did I set that value to? Column count is 13, so there should be 4 plus 4. Oh, I'm sorry, row. Row count. 4 plus 4. Should be 10 total. So the total number of columns, when I am doing this size, should be that total. Should be at 10. Huh. Oh well, I'll take a look at that a little bit later. But what we have is here is we have a frog that's moving around. He's animating properly. If you look at the things what we were supposed to do, we've now got a background with some visual requirements inside of it. The frog appears at the first platform. The time is set to 30. His life is set to 3. Frog's at the right spot. He's moving left to right. We don't have this bonus stuff for the cars and the logs, but he moves left to right. He moves forwards and backwards, and a jump animation takes place. So actually, we've now done all of the required bits, and we've done a bit of the bonus bits. So we still don't have some of the basic stuff that we need for like cars moving into view and the like, but we've actually, in the time that we've had, we've done all the things that were the total requirements to get started. So I think we've made good progress, and it looks pretty good so far. So we'll leave it at that for this particular installment, and we'll start looking at the positioning of the cars in the next one. Thanks for watching. We got our Frogger, and now we need to add his obstacles. We'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.